As seen on CBS, Missouri visiting number 5 Tennessee Vols, coming off a 27-13 loss to Georgia after starting the season 8-0, looking to rebound on Senior Day in Knoxville. Tennessee would be eliminated from SEC title contention with a loss or a Georgia win later in the day. Here we go. First play of the second quarter, tied at 7, 4th and 4. Hendon Hooker over the middle. Jalen Hyatt's got it down to the Mizzou 3. And with that catch, Hyatt goes over 1,000 yards receiving in a single season. 9th player in school history for that. Next play, Jalen Wright in from 3 yards out. Tennessee goes up 14-7. Wright with his 7th touchdown of the season. Later in the second, same score. Hooker to the end zone. Senior Princeton Fant. Touchdown. Tennessee up 21-7. Hooker's 53rd career touchdown pass, tying Josh Dobbs for 5th most in school history. Next Mizzou drive. Tigers not going away. Brady Cook lofts it up. Toske Dove hauls it in. Touchdown Mizzou. It's 21-14. Dove's first TD this year. Missouri's first touchdown pass in the last 3 games. Ensuing Volunteers possession. 2nd and 10. Hooker keeps it. 14 yards to the end zone. It's 28-14 Tennessee. In the first half, Hooker accounted for 2 touchdowns and 286 total yards of offense. It's his 15th game with at least 1 passing and 1 rushing touchdown. Let's go to the third, and Missouri not going away. It's Cook to Dominic Lovett, 38 yards, and it's a 4-point game. 28-24, Missouri hanging around, and, well, Smokey, looking a little nervous. No need to be nervous, pup. Next drive, Hooker to a wide-open Hyatt, 68 yards to pay dirt. Tennessee goes up 35-24. Hyatt, 7 catches, 146 receiving yards, and a touchdown. 15th receiving touchdown this season, ties him for 6th most in the SEC in a single season. Later in the third, Hooker to a wide-open Fant from 2 yards out. Tennessee goes up 42-24. They'd pile it on and win it big, 66-24. Your final, and Hendon Hooker, with a day to remember for sure, accounts for 4 total touchdowns, 3 through the air, 1 on the ground. Back-to-back games against Missouri with those kind of stats. Tennessee improves to 7-0 at home this season. This is the 9th time this season scoring 34+. This game on CBS, and our Sherry Burris on the sideline with the quarterback, Hendon Hooker, after the game.
How is it important to you to be the team that is perfect at home?
Very important. Every week we want to go out and go 1-0. It's 1-0 season, and we accomplished the mission today and came out and we prepared the right way and communicated at a high level and played at a high level as well.
Your coach told us that a year ago you guys had hope that you would win. Now there is the belief that you will go out there and expect to win. How did you show that today?
Just by preparing the right way and coming out here playing with a chip on our shoulder, and really motivating our teammates. All on the sideline, there's a lot of juice and energy. And even when we went through adversity, we kept our heads high and kept pushing.
Well, congratulations on senior night too, Hendon.
Thank you.
Well, that is a way to bounce back for Hendon Hooker, and Missouri's exactly the team that he loves to see when he wants to play well. 724 total yards of offense. That is a single game school record for Tennessee, and the 66 points, the most ever for the Vols in an SEC game. As we welcome you into the HQ with more on today's high-scoring affair in Knoxville, we welcome in Barrett Sallee and Danny Kanell. Hey, guys, look, you might want to actually call this like a palate cleanser for the Volunteers after what happened in Athens, Georgia. They took out their frustration, setting school records. Danny, what was your big takeaway from the game?
I think it was exactly what the Vols needed. A lot of eyeballs on this game to see how they would respond after that emotional, tough loss to the Georgia Bulldogs. Tennessee still very much in the playoff race. Like, would there be a letdown, or would they go right back to their winning ways? And, after a little bit of a slow start with a game that was a little bit back and forth, we saw what Tennessee does best. And that's, they put the pedal to the metal on the offensive side of the ball. Hendon Hooker takes over a game. And I thought it was huge for the defense to step up in the second half, because in the first half, they were a little bit, kind of what they've been all year, which isn't exactly dominant. But yet in the second half, when they needed to get those stops, they did, and showcased a defense that is more than willing to get those stops when they need it. Because everyone knows this offense is capable of putting up this type of performances. It's the defense that needs to showcase itself for the selection committee and for that eye test on this home stretch.
Yeah, DK, I think the style points were definitely on the line. I think Josh Heupel maybe not going for it at the very end of the game might have more of an impact because they didn't necessarily need to break 60. But I think the biggest thing is that we saw last week that Tennessee, when it gets shut down deep, it doesn't have a changeup. And I think what we saw against Missouri, a pretty good Missouri defense, is that Tennessee did develop a changeup, 280 sack-adjusted rushing yards. That's a big deal. Jabari Small has sort of been an ancillary character on this Tennessee team because we've talked so much about Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt and now Cedric Tillman. But Jabari Small's probably the most important part of this team. He provides balance in that rushing attack, and he had a great game. The rushing attack in general was phenomenal. The adjustments that Josh Heupel made at halftime clearly came through. Clearly, he knows what he's doing. This is absolutely a palate cleanser, like you said. And I think the fact that they developed a changeup this late in the season, very important moving forward.
Barrett, could you see this as a reset or even maybe a reminder about Hendon Hooker? Because after last week's, running up against the Georgia defense, which, to be fair, everybody kind of looks the same against Georgia, and that's worse than they look against everybody else. Is this a reminder that Hendon Hooker is right there amongst the Heisman leaders?
Yeah, I think it certainly has to be. A team like Tennessee, if it gets knocked out of the national championship race, generally speaking, since it is an upstart team, you're not going to pay attention to their superstars anymore. But Tennessee's not out of the national championship race. I think right now, if Josh Heupel is going to use it as a recruiting tool, which I think he will, then he's going to have to let Hendon Hooker cook because he might not be playing on championship weekend, which is 2 days before we turn in our ballots. So there's no doubt that was, I wouldn't say top of mind for Josh Heupel, but certainly he does care about something like that, and that's a big reason why Hendon Hooker stayed in the game, probably a couple drives more than he needed to.
Hendon Hooker is one of my favorite quarterbacks in the country. I thought he was right in the thick of things for the Heisman Trophy race, but unfortunately, I do think his performance in Athens cost him that Heisman Trophy. But I still think what Barrett said is very true. They're very much alive. And, of course, you never know what happens. C.J. Stroud could collapse, have a bad game against Michigan, and that's what they remember. Blake Corum, could struggle against Ohio State and could fall out of the race. Drake May plays later today. If he loses again, Caleb Williams. If there's certain things that happen, then Hendon Hooker could find himself back in the race. But barring complete, guys falling by the wayside, I do think he lost. I think he's still showcasing enough to get to New York City for an invite, which is an incredible accomplishment, and you see what he's capable of doing. But I think the most important thing was the style points, and I hate that we even have to talk about this, but the current setup, we have to, and you want to be able to impress. But I do think one thing hurt Tennessee today. One of their better wins was against the Kentucky Wildcats, and with the SEC East behind Georgia kind of having a really disastrous year with the Florida Gators, less than stellar, now Kentucky falling out of the top 25, where are the other signature wins? Pitt, another team that maybe you could have pictured being a top 25 win. I don't think they're going to stay in the top 25. Where are the other signature wins to build up their resume? And with not much remaining, there's not much left to impress.
A lot to chew on there. Danny Kanell, Barrett Sallee, thank you so very much as Tennessee with an impressive win at home over Missouri. And for much more in college football, from signing day all the way through the national championship, the Cover 3 podcast has you covered. Danny Kanell is one of the hosts. They got you all the way through. Just check it out wherever you get your podcasts. For more on what went down at Neyland Stadium, let's bring in a guy who's actually there. Coach Rick Neuheisel called the game on CBS. He's with us now. Coach, what are your first impressions from what you witnessed firsthand today?
You just missed me singing Rocky Top. I mean, it's a contagious song, I'm just telling you. Listen, if you were wondering about Tennessee and how that last week's loss at Georgia was going to affect them, worry no longer. They were outstanding. Missouri gave them a fight, had it 28-24 early there in the third quarter, but Hendon Hooker and company were up to the task. They got all facets of the offense going. Hooker accounts for 4 touchdowns. Really, really a fun performance for Tennessee and for the home crowd. And for the first time since 2007, they finished the home season unblemished, which is great news for Volunteer fans.
Singing Rocky Top at the top of their lungs after this one on
were.
Senior Day. For sure, you mentioned Hendon Hooker. He accounted for 4 touchdowns, 3 through the air, 1 on the ground. Tennessee's offense in general, though, they've been so good all season, Coach, but even today they stepped it up a notch, setting a school record well over 700 yards of total offense. What was the most impressive part about that performance to you?
Well, against who they did it again. I mean, here's Missouri coming into this game as the 13th ranked defense. They are fantastic defensively all season long. I mean, last week it was 21 points they gave up against Kentucky. But this was a high-octane Tennessee offense that had a mission, that had a statement to make. The rest of their schedule is about, telling those pollsters we want another chance. And the committee had to have taken a real good look at this one because that was impressive and then some.
Indeed. Rick Neuheisel on the call on CBS, on the HQ with us here post-game. Rick, thanks so much.
Thank you. See you now. I got to go sing Rocky Top some more.
All right. Good luck to you. Hendon Hooker, he doesn't need luck when he's playing against Missouri. Last 2 times he's played against him, he has lit Mizzou up. 355 passing yards on this day. And in each of the last 2 games against the Tigers, he accounted for 4 touchdowns, 3 through the air, 1 on the ground.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.